Welcome to Africa Business Reports. This is the show that covers business and entrepreneurs across the length and breadth of Africa. This month, we're in the land of 1,000 hills. Welcome to Rwanda. Now, as most of you are probably aware, Rwanda has had a very painful history. 16 years ago, the genocide ripped through this country and claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. But fast forward to 2010, and according to the World Bank, Rwanda now scores top marks for good governance and is also one of the best places to do business in Africa. Well, that's what the folks in Washington say, but what's the reality on the ground? Igon Kosu has this report.
Making money out of milk. Masaka Farms is something of a rarity in these parts, one of the few companies churning out dairy products. This business is in its infancy, it's 18 months old, and the brainchild of budding entrepreneur Serge Ndikwe. As the country's economy takes off, so too does demand for yogurt, cheese, creme fraiche, in fact all things dairy. So it's just started turning a profit. And here's the main engine of production for all of those dairy products. Serge built his plant at the edge of his 6-acre farm, handy for supplies of milk, of course. Now, Rwanda prides itself on its business-friendly climate. You can set up a company here in one day, at least in terms of paperwork. But access to capital can still be a problem.
The bank needs kind of guarantee to see if they give you a loan, you can pay back. But for many people and many young entrepreneurs, they don't have that guarantee. So maybe the government can come on that level and say, okay, if you can approve for this guy, we can give our guarantee.
And even if you get the all-important loan, the repayment terms can be challenging. Serge borrowed $100,000.
You pay back in 3 years. So to start a business like this and pay back in 3 years, sometimes it's hard, but you don't have too much choice. But we are lucky we get that loan.
Many businesses here are based on farming, and they're thirsty for up-to-date agricultural prices. But getting hold of that information can be a problem. Well, I've come to Muhanga Market, about an hour's drive outside of Kigali. It's one of the biggest in the country, and the air is rich with the smell of fresh produce. Onions, tomatoes, aubergines, you name it, it's pretty much here. Now, people come here from all over the country to buy and sell their produce, and it's a pretty brisk trade. But it's more than just an important market. It's also the scene of a pretty bold experiment in bringing high technology to the people and helping them make their living. Donata is a market trader at the very sharp end of the government's drive on IT. She's using her phone to access a computer server giving live updates on agricultural prices. She can then decide the best places to buy and sell her goods. Has this made a real difference to your earnings? She tells me she's now better able to anticipate the profits she's going to make because she knows the best places to get goods at the cheapest price and come here and sell them at a bigger margin. It may work for Donata, but take-up has been low. Yet despite this, the government is planning to expand the scheme.
The next phase now is to go across borders using the internet. We're going to be able to sell our commodities. Farmers are going to be able to get in touch with traders across the border through the power of the internet, because they'll be able to post using what we call telecenters. Farmers enter this telecenter, they can post what commodities they're out selling, and buyers are able to know what is being sold in Rwanda and come and purchase what is being sold in our local markets.
Well, back here at Masaka Farm, those national ambitions to drive business ahead are being felt right here. But whether it's at a national level or right here on a local farm, that desire to advance business is really going to take a lot of work.
We plan to build an organic farm there. We already start there to maintain the place. So we think, we hope maybe next year we can start to build an organic restaurant here at the farm, because we don't have that kind of restaurant in Kigali, in Rwanda. So I think this can be something, innovation for Rwanda.
Bold ideas. It's clear the fate of plans to build the economy will be shaped here and at countless other businesses like it. Igon Kosu, Africa Business Report, Kigali, Rwanda.
As everyone knows, this country has come from a very painful history. But the Rwanda of today is very different from the Rwanda of 16 years ago. This country says it's the ideal location for investment in Africa today. Now, later on, we'll be speaking to Claire Akamanzi, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the Rwanda Development Board. But right now, I want to talk to the people who are actually putting in money. Anik Nagpal is with the Mara Group based in the Middle East. Welcome to Africa Business Report.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good to have you on the show. Tell us about this investment you're making right now.
So this investment is actually done by one of our partners, DN International, a renowned construction firm here in Kigali. This investment's about $10 million that they're doing, but we're partnering with them, embarking on a $100 million investment, which is going to be a full mixed-use community in Gisozi.
Why Rwanda? Why not any other African country?
I mean, from our experience, we operate, we're based in the Middle East, but we focus on providing capital for projects, real estate projects in East Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. Rwanda, we found, amongst all the African countries that we've dealt with, has been the most conducive for investment. The government has been extremely proactive and encouraging parties from outside to invest here and supporting them from tax incentives to, fast-tracking processes.
Well, I think we hear about that a lot. We hear, other African countries saying, yes, this is a conducive business environment. Tell us about those things that really work for you. You're putting in a lot of money.
Right.
What do you need to have once you step into the country?
No, I understand. Well, just to start off with, I mean, the lack of corruption, that we haven't seen any indication of any corruption whatsoever in this country. That's extremely encouraging. The second thing is the amazing access to politicians or leaders that you need to get access to get approvals, to get your real estate projects through. I mean, I'll give you a recent example that we just went through. We were recently speaking at the Commonwealth Business Council, talking about our project and investment opportunities and real estate specifically. And when the Minister of Infrastructure saw the project, right away he met with us, within an hour of finishing the conference. And within 5 minutes of the meeting, he said, look, I understand what your project is. I understand you need a 2-kilometer road. We'll have that road built for you within 3 weeks. So that is unprecedented access that you get in comparison to any other African country.
Now, Anik, it paints a very good picture, but surely you must have hit a few brick walls, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we hit any brick walls, but there are some challenges in terms of doing business here. Because it's new and the nature of what we're doing, there's a couple of things that are not in place that ideally would be in place in a developed market. One, I would say a mortgage financing scheme where the banks have a mortgage product that's conducive to the population in terms of what they can actually afford for housing. So affordable housing is a challenge as it remains everywhere in Africa, especially in places where the banks are not capitalized enough to provide mortgage financing. The second thing, I would say the cost of inputs are quite high in Rwanda because of just its geographical state. In terms of it's landlocked, so the cost of inputs have to come from a port. And as far as expertise in this market, it's difficult to find. So you end up also paying higher cost of inputs for experts, market experts, to get an idea of feasibilities or things like that. So those are challenges that we face. But I wouldn't say brick walls, but it makes things sometimes a little bit more expensive.
It's been great speaking to you, Anik, and good luck with your project. Thanks for being on Africa Business Report. What is Rwanda pitching to the rest of the world? Well, Claire Akamanzi is the Chief Operating Officer of the Rwanda Development Board.
The thing that makes Rwanda stand out is its efficiency in service delivery. And that is the one area that we are actually standing out and giving a very, very different pitch to investors. And in addition to that, we are also, we were the top global reformer in 2010, according to the World Bank Doing Business Report. That means that in the whole world, Rwanda was the fastest reformer for doing business.
But Claire, as you very well know, the East African community is expanding. You're moving towards political union. You already have a common market. Isn't there a concern that a country the size of Rwanda may end up being swallowed up by Tanzania and Uganda and Kenya?
For us, it's actually the opposite. The fact that we are a country that will get more benefits by being in a bigger community. This is really why we joined the East African community. So with Rwanda bringing its values and bringing its achievements and sharing that with a bigger community of almost 150 million people, that really is why we're in the East African community. So when an investor comes to invest in Rwanda, they're not looking at a market of 10 million people that we are in Rwanda, but they're actually looking at a market of 150 million people. And it's not a market that is just a theoretical market. We have a customs union in the East African community. What that means that if you produce within Rwanda or within any of the East African communities, you actually sell without paying any duties in any of the countries. So there's actually free movement of goods. But in addition to that, starting July this year, 2010, we will also move into a common market. That means there'll be free movement of capital, labor, and services, which is really another step of integration.
Is the focus foreign investment, or is there an equal emphasis on domestic investment, the local entrepreneur?
Well, each of them has a role, whether it's a foreign investor or local investor, each of them has a role for the economy. The local investments in the country have a very big impact on the economy. Today we have a very big SME or small and medium enterprises network in the country. So they provide jobs, they provide livelihoods for a big number of people, and so they're very important in contributing to the growth of the economy in that sense. We look to the foreign investments to bring that capital that may not be mobilized easily within the country. So we're looking at foreign investments bringing huge investments, big companies, big services, bringing technology that we don't have in the country. In other words, we look to foreign investments bringing those that cannot be easily mobilized within the country, but we also think local investments have a very, very important role to play in the economy.
That was Claire Akamanzi, the Chief Operating Officer of the Rwanda Development Board.
6-acre farm, handy for supplies of milk, of course. Now, Rwanda prides itself on its business-friendly climate. You can set up a company here in one day, at least in terms of paperwork. But access to capital can still be a problem.
The bank needs kind of guarantee.
Of budding entrepreneur Serge Ndikwe. As the country's economy takes off, so too does demand for yogurt, cheese, creme fraiche, in fact all things dairy. So it's just started turning a profit. And here's the main engine of production for all of those dairy products. Serge built his plant at the edge of his...
Welcome to Africa Business Reports. This is the show that covers business and entrepreneurs across the length and breadth of Africa. This month, we're in the land of 1,000 hills. Welcome to Rwanda. Now, as most of you are probably aware, Rwanda has had a very painful history. 16 years ago, the genocide has this report.
Making money out of milk. Masaka Farms is something of a rarity in these parts, one of the few companies churning out dairy products. This business is in its infancy, it's 18 months old, and the brainchild
ripped through this country and claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. But fast forward to 2010, and according to the World Bank, Rwanda now scores top marks for good governance and is also one of the best places to do business in Africa. Well, that's what the folks in Washington say, but what's the reality on the ground? Egon Kosu